today, what we're going to talk about, though, is gut health. It's like, where did that come from? We've been talking about lots of other things, haven't we? But it's time to start focusing in on some big rocks. And gut health is one of the big rocks that I have. It's been a part of my journey, and it's something that in my membership group, we talk about every single year. We spend 1 to 2 months focused on gut health every year in my membership group, because it's important for everyone. It's not just for those who have a gut problem or issue. Absolutely not. Because if you're blessed to not have any noticeable gut health issues, then you want to keep it that way. And you want to do things to make sure you're protecting and taking care of that gut. Hey Linda, good morning again. I know, I've been going live all morning. So I hope if you haven't done this yet, then don't worry about it. Just get a piece of paper, okay? Don't worry about it. But hopefully you have printed out, hey Selena, hopefully you have printed out your note-taking sheet. I got my notes filled out for the video, okay? I know I started off a little rambly and chit-chatty, but I'm going to be focused here in just a second. I don't normally do that for the live videos here, but sometimes I might. It's super fun. When I have a coaching group, like my 8-week Step Mama group, or when I do a focused workshop, I use note-taking outlines. They're for you, but not really. They're really for me so that I will stay on track and tell you what I want to tell you and not go off on too many rabbit trails and things like that. So if you have it, the place to get, hey Susan, the place to get that is in the newest freebie that I shared a few days ago. It's a gut health freebie that you can get. If you don't have it yet, just get it later. And you can just listen or I don't even know if you want to take notes. You might not want to. You might have already heard this stuff millions of times. But the reason we're doing gut health is, again, it's a big rock. We all need to be aware of it. In August, in my membership group, that's what we're going to be focused on in August. And so I share things in here as an introduction kind of level that we are diving in deeper to in my membership group. And my free challenges that I do, I'm doing 6 total in 2024 for this year. And I think I did 6 last year, I believe. But my free challenges will be on these big rocks also. So we've already done a few challenges this year. This is challenge number 3 or 4. I've lost track. 3 or 4. Still got a couple more to go for sure. So on Monday, we'll start our next 2-week challenge focused on gut health. Not the first time we've done that. I change it up a little bit every time I do it. But at the end of this chat, I will share with you what we're going to, hey Kelly, what we're going to be doing for the gut health challenge. It's a free challenge. You show up and do it. You don't need to sign up, nothing like that. It's just for fun, and it's to get you thinking about, oh, should pay attention to that a little bit more, or oh, that isn't that hard to do. I can do that and make that a part of my regular day and week. And so that's what we'll do. And I'll have a post later today and tomorrow that explain the challenge a little bit more, and it will be super easy. Good morning, Ruth. All right, I'm so excited to see y'all, and I'm glad I can see some comments. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know why it does that. Okay, so real quick, this is not on the outline, but I want to tell you, if you haven't heard it before, very briefly, healing my gut was a huge part of my health journey that started, honestly, it started about 13, 14 years ago. My healing journey started about 13 or 14 years ago. Problems with health issues with my gut and other things started probably about 17 years ago, roughly, something like that. And it didn't make any sense because nothing happens suddenly most of the time. I realized I could not eat the same stuff I had been eating forever. I did not have food allergies per se, but I started having trouble eating things that I had always eaten. And I started having issues with that, which was annoying. And it's really hard. Honestly, Food sensitivities are so hard. Food allergies are usually a little more cut and dried, usually. And I don't mean to say that that's easier, because that's usually harder to deal with. But food sensitivities are hard to figure out. And so I really tried, but it was difficult. And I didn't know. But I knew something wasn't right, but I didn't quite know what. So at about the same time, or a little bit after, I started having major issues with panic attacks and anxiety in the car, having never done that before. And that just wasn't really me, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I was like, who is this person that is having a panic attack in the car, first as a driver and then as a rider, just as a passenger? It was like that all, over the few years, it was like, this is weird. I'm not worried about the car. Like, I'm literally not thinking about it. And of course, then though, once you've had a few of those panic attacks, then you are thinking about it and it's top of mind. But it was really weird. And so obviously the two were connected, but I didn't know that for a long time. So I just want to tell you right now, if you have anxiety and or panic attacks or something like that, it is possible, not 100%, but it is possible that it could be directly food related, or that food and gut health could be making it worse. Okay, so that's my big why on why taking care of your gut and making sure that your gut, your digestion is working properly is so important. I mean, nobody wants to walk around with a bloated gut anyway. It's uncomfortable and it don't look great. I mean, nobody wants that anyway. And it can be very disruptive to sleep if you go to bed like I used to with a bloated gut. It's disruptive, okay, to sleep and all that. And of course, that causes more problems. But even bigger than that is the impact it can have on your mental health and on your emotional well-being. And a lot of people don't realize that. And it's so tightly connected. And so I want to bring that point to you, because we all need to be concerned about gut health. We all need to make sure that our digestive system is working as good as we can make it, from top to tail, okay? Really and truly. And that is why I get really concerned when I hear that people are having to rely upon supplements or medicines or whatever in order for their digestion to work or for their bathroom to work or whatever. I get concerned, because that's a sign that, okay, something's not right. And that can be hard if you don't know what's going on, but it's worth taking the time to try to figure out and try to get to some root cause for sure. Okay. So that's just kind of part of my story. What ended up happening is, I did get put on an antidepressant for those panic attacks, even though I was doing pretty good in all other areas of life. And, I did get put on one of those. I hated taking it. I didn't like it. It only marginally helped. It didn't really help me. Barely, and I mean barely. But I took that for 7 years. And so after I had been on it for about 4 or 5 years, I really started, like, I was, I'd had my children, we were done with that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, I got to get this figured out. What's going on? Why is my gut? And I still didn't realize that the gut and the other were related. And so I went to doctors. I went to my regular doctor. I went to my OB that I was still seeing, tests and all these different things. And they just all came back and finally said, well, you're just getting older. And this was me at like age 38. Like 38 ain't old. It's not even older. You're just getting older and things don't work the way they used to anymore. And you just have to change the way you eat a little bit. And that's just the way it is. Ha ha ha. And I'm like, no, that is not okay. That is not okay with me, because I feel terrible. And like, not just the gut issues, but the whole anxiety thing. I'm like, what? This cannot be how it's going to be the rest of my life. This is not me. Like, the me I know is inside of there. And so, that really ticked me off, to be honest. And I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, no way. And so thankfully, that is when I started doing the Trim Healthy Mama plan in January of 2013. And I still was on an antidepressant. But I will say, for about the first 9 months, doing the Trim Healthy Mama plan and taking the antidepressant, I made a lot of strides in my overall health. And I finally felt like I came up out of the hole. Hey, Danita, I finally felt like I was up out of the hole. Like I felt like I had been in a hole for a long time. Now, this is a big preface to this gut health talk, but I want you to know where I'm coming from on this, just generally speaking. So it was after about 9 months of making some good, healthy food changes that I finally felt ready to try to tackle some gut healing, because I knew I had a lot of ways to go. Doing the Trim Healthy Mama plan did not solve all my problems in that department. They were much more complex. And so after about 9 months, I finally felt like I could start honing in on gut health. And I started learning about it and reading about it. And I wanted to come off that medicine because, like I said, I'm not anti-med. It's just that it was literally not helping me enough. It really wasn't doing enough. But if I tried to, if my doctor increased the dose, that was not good. Not good. So that wasn't an option. So, and I didn't want to do that anyway. I'm like, surely there's a difference. Surely there's another way. And there is. At least for me, there was. And so I have spent, at this point, over 10 years really digging into the importance of gut health. I am not a gut health expert, not by any means. Not by any means. I just want to highlight to you that it's important, various reasons why it's important, and it's not just bloating. There's lots of other reasons. And I want you to really be thinking about that you can even be eating healthy foods, but still have work to do in the gut healing department. That's possible. Obviously, eating healthy foods and not eating unhealthy ones are going to make a huge dent in the positive for your gut health. But sometimes you might be like me and you've got some issues, anxiety, depression, just some gut issues that you might need to dial it in more. And so I just want you to be aware of that, okay? And I want to bring that to the forefront. But I'm not an expert by any means. There's lots of good books out there that are on the topic, for sure. But I just want to highlight a few things to you. And there's some simple things that we can do that will help us to keep our gut healthy and really working optimally. And so I want to bring those things to your attention, and that's what we'll do with our challenge, okay? So on that outline, these are some action points. I want to give you some action points. And I mean, you can say, no way, I'm not doing that. You have every right to say that. I'm just telling you what the literature, the info, the research, the data, the science, I'm just going to tell you what the science says, and you can decide to not do it if that's what you want to do, okay? So dial back on these foods. So we're going to talk about some foods that it's not just Mama Fox telling you to do. I'm just sharing with you what I have learned, okay? So don't shoot the messenger. That's actually what I'm saying. Dial back. Hard no. This one's an easy one for y'all, probably. I would hope at this point. A hard no to sugar. Like, just no. It is a complete gut microbiome disruptor. It's not going to help or benefit you in any way. Forget about the weight loss aspect for a minute. Forget about the inflammation joint issues for a minute. It is a microbiome like atomic bomb, okay? So a hard no to sugar as well as fake sugar, like Splenda or whatever, like fake sugar. I'm not talking about, the healthy stevia and things like that or monk fruit. I'm talking about the fake ones, aspartame, those type things. Hard no to that. Just there's just nothing to be said. There's nothing good about those at all. Now, the red light, dial back. A red light food means better stop. If you're really wanting to work on gut healing, and if you're really wanting to protect your gut health, y'all are not going to like this one, and I love y'all too much to tell you differently. Red light is gluten. Okay? Gluten. Yeah. And I'll give you, y'all know, I have not read this book yet. Oh, where's my book? I haven't read this one yet. So, I don't know. Okay? If you want to deep dive into gut health from an absolute expert, I mean, absolute expert. Super Gut by Dr. William Davis. He is the author of Wheat Belly. Maybe you've heard of Wheat Belly. This is his newer book, okay? I have not read it yet, I'll be honest, but I've listened to him interviewed, because you know how like when an author has a new book, they do a lot of interviews on podcasts. I've listened to him on a few podcasts recently, and then several of our mod mamas have already read this book and implemented some of the things there. And so if you want to learn more, he's the guy to go to, okay? So red light on gluten. I know you don't want to hear that, probably, but it is a huge problem. The wheat and the gluten and all that, the wheat that we have now is not the wheat that was there 500 years ago or even 200 years ago. It's not the same. And it's a real problem, okay? Now, does that mean that you can't ever have some on-plan bread or whatever? Well, I mean, you can choose to do that, but it's a hard food to be having when you're trying to heal your gut, okay? So that's what I'm going to tell you on that. Another red light food that is a huge disruptor, it's just more of a category, but that would be like all the refined seed oils and fillers that are in a lot of foods. Yes, even those, acceptable salad dressings and acceptable hummus and all that stuff. Be very, very mindful of those really less than stellar ingredients that are in foods everywhere. My oldest daughter's best friend recently learned that she is allergic to sunflower oil, of all things, like very allergic. And I hate that for her in a way, because sunflower oil is just everywhere in packaged food, even so-called kind of healthy ones. But honestly, on the other hand, it's a mixed blessing for her, because she's going to have to be a label reader for herself. And those of you who have allergies or people in your family, it's a mixed blessing in some ways. I know it's hard. It's very hard. But it's a mixed blessing because she's not going to be able to eat much processed food. And most processed food is problematic. Most of it, even the healthy stuff. So watch out for that, okay? All right, now, yellow light. That means proceed with caution. It means not everybody needs to pull back as much as others, but we all need to be cautious with this. There's two things here, okay? Dairy. Sorry, ladies. I love you too much to gloss it over, okay? Dairy is an issue. Doesn't mean you can't have it sometimes. Doesn't mean that it isn't beneficial in certain ways, I guess. But it can be problematic. It raises inflammation for those of us who grapple with any level of inflammation. And it can be harder on the gut to process and digest. Maybe not for everyone. But if you're stuck in your journey and you are not where you want to be in your health journey, and you've got some things that are causing you trouble or issues or concerns, you have got to take a look at these big rocks. Definitely the sugar and all that, but gluten, fillers of processed food, and dairy. You've got to take a hard look at those, okay? It might mean for the dairy that you need to pull it out for a season. And that's kind of what we do in the 8-week group. We let in a little feta here and there, but not much. You might need to pull it back for a season and let your gut get a break. Give your gut a rest and let it just kind of chill for a while, because it's working so hard for you. And when you're throwing things at it like gluten and dairy, you're making it so much harder on your gut. It doesn't get a break. So think about that. And then the other category of food, and this is a tough one, is the processed health foods. And that could be like a protein bar that's kind of okay, but it really isn't, but it's close. So you rely on it. Be careful about those. They can be a gut disruptor too. And when I say gut disruptor, I'm talking about really disrupting the microbiome in your gut, which needs to be balanced and healthy and robust and working properly. These things like, oh, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. I want to be careful about what I say. I don't want to make it too hard, but just watch out for processed food, even health food, even things that you might think should be okay. Watch out for those. Look at the labels. And I know looking at labels can be tedious, but once you know, and not to bother with that food anymore. I would say for myself, what I have strived to do, and I'm actually trying to hone in on this more, is I certainly don't want to rely on packaged food from a day-to-day basis. No way. It will hold you back on your weight loss. It will hold you back on your brain fog, clearing that up. It will hold you back on just low levels of inflammation. And too much of it can be a huge disruptor to your gut microbiome. Okay. So, that's a good one, Rita. I was actually listening to a podcast this morning. I'm not done with it yet, so I don't want to recommend it just yet, but it was good. And they were talking about protein powders, and she did recommend being very careful about them. Now, obviously, there are some protein powders out there on the market. There's many, actually, that are full of sugar and other stuff. And so definitely watch the labels on those. You definitely want to get single ingredient type protein powder if you're going to use it. But this podcast I was listening to this morning, she had some other reasons for encouraging people not to rely on those. And one of them, and this is what I would agree with, because this is what I have found, is protein powder, like a protein powder shake, doesn't always trigger satiety and fullness and satisfaction like a good old chicken breast would. And then that can start a whole cascade of problems for sure. I have found that to be true, and I love a good protein shake. I'm not lying. I really do. I've been doing that since I was like early 20s. I love a good protein shake. But that is why I don't personally do them at breakfast anymore, even though I used to do that kind of often at breakfast, to be honest. I mean, not all the time, but pretty often. I don't use them at breakfast anymore because it just sets my day up so poorly, because it doesn't trigger the satiety and fullness and satisfaction and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of interesting to think about. That's kind of getting into the food piece thing, but do start paying attention. That is the point I want to hit home so hard with y'all, my membership mamas, my coaching group mamas. We've got to look and see how our food choices are actually setting us up for our day and the next day, because we're not that segmented. It doesn't just, what we ate the day before doesn't just, magically not matter the next day, of course, right? But I think we really need to pay attention. Okay, everybody else is eating this or drinking that, and they're all healthy and great. So it must work for me too. Not necessarily. So I really want you focusing in on what works for you. And that is why I put the dairy as a yellow light. It's not that you can't have some, but it might not be the best choice for you for this season if you've got some gut healing you need to do, or if you're struggling, or if you're stuck, whatever. I want you to really take a hard look at that. And I still do have dairy. I'm not allergic to dairy. I just have found that it really holds me back. It holds me back on my weight loss. It holds me back on my brain clarity and increases fog a bit. And so if I'm going to have it, it better be good. Like, it better be really, really high quality, delicious, like smoked Gouda that's really good. Not Sargento Gouda. I'm talking like really good. It better be good, right? And that just kind of gives you some ways to start thinking about your journey. But I want you to consider these things. They're yellow light. The processed health foods that are like, not terrible. They're just not pristine. They're not whole foods. That was one of the things she was talking about, Rita, was that protein powder isn't whole food. It isn't. And so I was like, ooh, you're right. It really isn't whole food. So just being mindful, maybe not relying on those things as much. I always think, though, it's a good idea to take a break from things that are fringy, marginal, maybe not whole food, things that could possibly raise inflammation or be a disruptor, it's really good to take a break. And when I say break, I mean like a month or two. It takes longer. Like gluten can stay in your system for like weeks, I believe, is what I've heard. So it's really good to take a break, because sometimes we just become so reliant. We become so reliant on something, and we feel like we couldn't possibly live without it. We are strong women. We can live without it. We can do that. But sometimes too, we've just become so, we've used it as a crutch, or we've become kind of addicted to it. So it's really good to take a break, I think, from some of these things. And then it's like a reset. And that's how my 8-week group kind of works. We take a huge break for some things. We break out we take a break from gluten and almost all dairy, and certainly gunk and junk and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean you can't have it later on, but now we are more in control. Now we are more in control of using it, enjoying it, and also we can better tell when we have one of those red lights or yellow lights that I mentioned. Then we can more clearly see the direct effect of those. So that's my take on that. I think is really, really important. Okay. Now the goal in doing that, I identified 5. You might be able to identify more than that actually, but the goal when we're doing something like that, it's to heal the gut. Give it a rest. Give it a break. Give it some time to just do what it's designed to do. Okay, so heal the gut, decrease the bad guys, and the bad guys would be those things that are disruptors, especially the sugar and the processed food and the seed oils and the fake and the junk and the fillers and all that. We want to decrease the bad guys that are in our gut. That's going to be like the not so helpful bacteria that thrive off of those things. So you have bacteria in your gut. You have good bacteria and not so great bacteria. And we want the good guys, the good bacteria, to greatly outnumber and outperform the bad guys. The bad guys live and thrive on those inflammatory, toxic things I mentioned, okay, for sure. But even things that raise inflammation is going to be kind of food for those, okay? So we want to decrease them. We want to increase the good guys, the good gut health bacteria. We want to increase that number, and we can. It's not that hard. And then number 4, that's what I was talking about, helping you identify your trouble spots. Your trouble spots and my trouble spots may be very different. I have an autoimmune. I have RA. So I super duper have to pay attention to inflammation and anti-inflammatory lifestyle more than someone who maybe doesn't have an autoimmune. Okay, so we each have our own trouble spots. We want to identify those. And then the goal, number 5, the goal is to eat as freely as possible. The goal isn't to eat as restrictively as possible. The goal is to eat as freely as possible while making progress towards your personal goals and while maintaining good progress you've made and continuing to heal. That's the goal. Do it as freely as possible, okay? All right, now let's talk about our gut healthy superfoods, and this is what we're going to focus on for our challenge. Number 1, the little pink butterfly there. Number 1, prebiotics, prebiotics, okay? Week 1 of our gut health challenge will be focused on prebiotic food. And in your freebie gut health guide that I just shared with y'all, there is a page of prebiotic superstars, like lots of vegetables and greens could be listed. Because really what we're talking about there is fiber. We're talking about really great fiber that will be the food. These feed the good guys in your gut. They have to have food, and prebiotic fiber is what they thrive on. And so your vegetables and greens and all that have fiber, but there's just some that have more than others, okay? And so I'm looking at my screen. In your guide on page 4 of the guide is a list of of prebiotic superstars. And we're going to be focused on those, some in particular, and I'll announce that later today or tomorrow. But we're going to be focused on four to five prebiotic superstars for our week 1 challenge. And it'll be a mix. It'll be a mix of things so that you have things to pick from, and I will announce that later today or early tomorrow. But these are the food for the good gut bacteria. They have to have food. And you'll notice, this is why I've said it for months now, over a year now. Protein, yes, it is important, but also veggies. Like, we cannot ignore the veggies and the greens. That is just as important. It's different. It serves a different purpose. You've got to have the greens and the veggies and the fiber for your gut health. It's imperative, okay? And so protein, yes, but also veggies. I've used that hashtag a lot. You're going to hear me say it. It's not focus on one and ignore the other. Oh my goodness, no, we've got to have both. Got to have both. And this is why I care about your gut health. I care about your mental health. I do. I really do. I care about how you're feeling and your emotions. And that is so important to feed your good gut bacteria. They've got to have prebiotic fiber. Gotta. Okay? Now, the second one down there, and this will be our week 2 for our challenge. I'm sure you can guess what that one is. Probiotics. P-R-O. Probiotics. These provide or give more good gut guys to your gut. These give more good bacteria to your gut, okay? And so probiotics are those fermented foods. Kimchi, kombucha, I got a word about that one though. You know what I'm gonna say. Kefir, fermented veggies, fermented pickles, all that kind of stuff, okay? So those actually give your gut more healthy bacteria that are so important. And the prebiotics, or the prebiotic fiber, is what feeds them and keeps them robust and healthy. Super important. Here's a couple of things I want to tell you. Number 1, your immune system is in your gut. It's kind of important to take care of your gut. and it is the bacteria, the microbiome, that is key for that. So immune system is in your gut. Number 2, going back to my story, and what I didn't know at the time is that 90% of your serotonin is made in your gut, then sent to the brain. Okay? That's a lot. So if your gut microbiome is disrupted, out of balance, I call it out of whack because I'm so Southern, if it's not performing well, if you're not taking care of it and paying attention to it, it can be that not enough serotonin is being produced, but it can also be that it's being produced but not enough is sent to the brain. That is exactly what was going on with me. With the panic attacks in the car and the anxiety and stuff, I just wasn't getting the serotonin. It wasn't going to my brain because my gut was such a mess and it was so messed up that it wasn't sending enough to my brain. And it was just enough triggering to cause panic attacks, okay? And I can tell you, once what I did to heal my gut, besides eating the Trim Healthy Mama plan at that time, was nightly kefir. I hate to say religiously, consistently, daily, never missed. I started making kefir homemade. It is so easy, guys, it's easy. But I started making kefir homemade, and I would have 1 cup at night before I went to bed. That's a great thing to do if your sleep is messed up. And if your gut is messed up and causing problems, chances are your sleep's not great because your gut's having to work and try to adjust and do all this stuff that it's not supposed to be doing when you're sleeping. But I did that for a long time. I had a cup of kefir at night daily. And I did that for a very, very long time until I really had made great strides in my healing. Does it take time to heal like that? Yes, it does, and it's worth it. And I wouldn't change a thing. Would not change a thing. It does take some time, and it takes consistency. But that was the best thing I ever did for my gut, for sure. is doing that. And then after a while, I didn't have to do it at night anymore. I didn't even have to do it every day. I would just do it a few times a week. And here's what I want to tell you. If even now, okay, I would say I'm a maintenance mama. I'm a maintenance gut health mama. Even now, if I were to go a couple of weeks or less without some kefir, I can tell when I get in the car, I can tell that angst coming back. I can tell the anxiety coming back. Okay. I have to continue taking care of my gut in order to make sure it's not like a once and done. So I'm sorry if you thought it was once and done. It wasn't for me. But I can tell if I've gone a week or two without it, I can tell. Here's the other thing I want to tell you. I want to give you a little encouragement here. When one of my daughters dumped my kefir grains into my blender, y'all remember when that happened back in 2020? Y'all heard me tell about that so many times. I'm not mad. I promise I'm not. But when she dumped those kefir grains into my blender, I have no idea why I didn't just buy more grains. I don't know. Like, what else did I have to do in 2020? I don't know. But for some reason, I didn't order grains. So I just started buying the Lifeway plain kefir at Publix on BOGO and stocking up. And I know that that's not recommended in all circles anymore, but I'm going to tell you right now, that worked just fine for me for maintenance. I'm not saying that it would work as well for healing, but for maintenance, it kept me maintained because I will, if I don't get my kefir after about a week or two, I can tell. And I used the Lifeway for a long time, like months and months and months, and did just fine with it on maintenance. So it does work to some level. And another great way to do it is, and Monica, I tell you what, Monica, if you'll post that as a question in our group, there are some mamas who make dairy-free kefir for sure, like homemade. So definitely, I know there's some mamas that can help you with that for sure. The other great thing is the easy kefir, which I've done a video about, and I can try to remember, y'all don't let me forget, I can try to remember to share that again. It's on my YouTube channel, and it's just easy kefir, and it's like a bridge between buying the Lifeway and having grains. It's a great option, especially if you're intimidated or if you just don't want to have to deal with the grains. That is a great, better option for sure, okay? So week 2 of our challenge will be focused on probiotics. And I'll put more information out there about that. I don't want you to be afraid of it. It's going to be fine. If you are not used to using one of these probiotic foods, you're going to have choices. Okay, so you don't have to do kefir that week if you don't want to. But I will say this, if you're not used to using a probiotic food, when you first start using it, you've got to go small because you're going to be flooding your gut with these wonderful, great gut bacteria, and they're going to go in there and they're going to like go to battle with the bad guys, and they're going to win because you're feeding your gut well. And then there's going to be some die off, so to speak. There may be some like, rumbly tumbly, some extra bathroom time. I mean, it's nothing it's not like the end of the world, but yet who wants that? So if you're not used to using probiotic or fermented food, always go easy with each one. So even if you're used to using kefir, but now you want to try fermented veggies, go easy on that one too. And by easy, like I'm talking like a tablespoon or 2. Okay, like maybe a tablespoon once a day. Like go super duper easy on that for sure. Now, a word about kombucha. I mean, y'all got to watch it. It's full of sugar by design. I don't really recommend it unless you're going to make it homemade and control that. Sorry. I will say the best one I've seen has been, I believe it's Synergy is the brand, and they have one called the Trilogy, and it is one of their lower sugar ones, but it's still 12 grams of like flat out sugar per bottle. So if you do that one, I don't really recommend it, but if you do it, like a couple of tablespoons alongside a meal at a time, okay? Because it's very high in sugar for sure. You can make kombucha. I have done it before. It's not that hard, but I just don't care about it that much. And there was only one other person here that would drink it, and she went to college. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to fool with that anymore. For sure not. Okay. So I've got to run because I have errands to run with one of my daughters, but y'all don't let me forget. I want to post the easy kefir video for y'all. I mean, it's probably in here in the group somewhere, one of the guides. I'm not quite sure where. If y'all want to bump it, that'd be great. But later today, tomorrow, I will post the details of our challenge. Week 1, we're going to focus on some particular prebiotic superstars that you can find on that list. I'm not telling you what they are just yet, but we're going to focus on that. You're going to eat a serving of those at least once a day, every day. It's going to be super easy, super fun. And then week 2, we'll focus on probiotic, okay? Now, for my mamas, and my best friend's one of them, for my mamas who are allergic to fermented foods, you have a histamine reaction to fermented foods, and you probably know who you are. If you have a histamine reaction to fermented foods, Greek yogurt or yogurt can cause a problem too. Protein powders and collagens can cause a problem too. If you are a histamine mama and you cannot do fermented foods, then on our week 2, you get a pass and you can do okra, okay? But not the rest of y'all, okay? Not the rest of y'all. The rest of y'all, I want you doing probiotics, fermented. But for our histamine mamas, okra. And I'll put that all in the details and stuff about that too, okay? All right, thanks for hanging out with me. That was kind of longer, but now you know a little bit more of my story and a little bit more of why I'm really, really, really big about protein, yes, but also veggies. Yes, also fiber. It's super important. Gotta have it. Your gut bacteria needs the fiber. It needs the good stuff. It needs those prebiotic fibers, and it needs a good bit of it. And I don't even know if I've been doing enough. I'm trying to work on increasing that a little bit. Got to take care of our gut health for our overall mental, emotional well-being and our immune system. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. If you have questions that, like about dairy-free kefir or anything like that, try posting it as a question in our group so that some of the mamas will see it, because I know that there are mamas that can help you with that for sure. And anyway, I look forward to doing this challenge with you. It's going to be fun. It's going to be easy. It won't be hard, but it'll really help bring this all to top of mind, I hope, for you. All right. Bye-bye, ladies.